I'd like to call the committee to order. Start the meeting. Can we call establish quorum, please?
Absolutely. We'll start with Commissioner Nagel,
Here.
Commissioner Olson,
Right next to it.
Commissioner Buckle,
Good band.
Vice Chair Cohen,
Here.
Commissioner O'Reilly,
Also
and Chair Dixon.
I am.
And we did know that ahead of time that Commissioner Basigi is out of the country. So we do have a quorum of commissioners to hold the meeting.
And we have a president to speak. Yeah.
So we do have the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any public comments on any of the agenda that are not on our list today?
So we do not currently have anyone in attendance, and I did not receive anything ahead of time. So if that changes, I will let you know, but we do not have any public comment for items not on the agenda at this time.
Oh, and agenda. We have the focus group first.
Yes, so it is my pleasure to introduce Anne. She is our consultant with Age Friendly and Cafe Center for Age Friendly Excellence. So I will turn it over to her, as she will be leading the focus group.
Great, thank you. Can I move it?
Sure, absolutely. Here, I'll grab it.
Hi, my name is Anne O'Brien Keegren, and I work for the Center for Age Friendly Excellence. I'll just give you a little bit of background because I know 3 of you have heard this before. I actually have worked with Cafe for the last 2 years. Prior to that, I worked for Supervisor Canepa for San Mateo County as his legislative aide. And then I was on the Burlingame City Council 4-time mayor, 17 years, just retired from there the end of 2022, and was on their planning commission prior to that for 8 years, and then had a career in nursing. So it's kind of a wide range of health and politics. So I am here today because Los Altos has, in 2011, went through the process of becoming age friendly certified. Is going through the process again. And we in Cafe are going to be helping develop the action plan for Los Altos. And so we're conducting a few focus groups and asking a few questions in regards to 8 various domains for age-friendly cities to get your feedback on unmet needs and potential projects that maybe Los Altos may want to consider futuristically implementing in their city. I do have a sign-up sheet over there somewhere, so just make sure everyone signs it. And also informed consent. Just wanted to let you know that when I put these reports together, there are no names mentioned. Everything is anonymous. And then even with the action plan, there'll be I'll include an acknowledgement of the commission itself, and then also the task force, but not saying that you were focus group members, okay? I am going to tape this so that when I am doing the reports, my information is accurate, because I'm trying to type and talk and put this on record. It'll make it a little easier. Okay, so the first domain we're going to talk about is outdoor spaces and buildings in the city of Los Altos. And that basically kind of encompasses, any public buildings, restrooms, sidewalks, roads. It could be traffic signals, stop signs, parks. So I just kind of want to get your feedback of what you think are the strengths in kind of those subjects. And then after we kind of go through that, we'll go over the unmet needs that you think Los Altos has, and then some potential projects that you might like to see implemented futuristically. I always like to talk about strengths because every city does a wonderful job in running their cities, but there's always areas of improvement. I have worked with many cities in San Mateo County. We've actually gotten 17 of the 20 cities certified. And then now we're working on the action plans. And so it's a pleasure to be able to be working with a different county and different city. So who would like to, I know I have 3 members that were in the task force. So I would like them, the others, to talk first, and then if you'd like to add, that would be greatly appreciated, so they have enough time to speak. I'm also going to end this meeting sharply at 5, because I do have another meeting in Burlingame at 6 o'clock. Okay? All right, so in your opinions, what do you think are the strengths in regards to outdoor spaces and buildings in the city of Los Altos? This is free flowing. I'm not calling on people. You just can start talking.
The parks and dog parks. The parklets we have downtown. The new State Street Market, which allows group gathering as well.
What do you like about the parklets?
What I like about the parklets is I go to some of the other adjoining cities. Ours are far more convenient and attractive. Doesn't look like that everybody's got a different style. Looks like there's some unity with it, so it's a very warm and welcoming. We do have First Friday, which is encouraging people to get out and walk down the sidewalks, get to know some of the the store owners, the stores, as well as having entertainment on each corner.
They are inviting, so it's one where you could just meet with a friend and then you just see, oh, there's a place here, let's go sit, and it's.
Great place to socialize.
It is. And it also, you're able to see friends or people you know or recognize, just familiar faces sitting around downtown that you're being a part of, and interaction, which is, I think, important.
And what do you like about the parks and the dog parks? And how many dog parks do you have?
Several.
We are counted, but.
There's one right out here. I don't have a dog, so that's not something I'm familiar with.
I think here at Hillview, and then there's one down by.
And this one.
So there's a temporary one here at Hillview, and then there's the one down at Mackenzie. And we're currently working on the design of the permanent dog park, which will be located here.
Okay, is Mackenzie not permanent?
That part I don't.
It should be.
It should be.
It's just we're doing it in stages.
I would say the location, and that's something, again, because right now there aren't any features at the moment, and so it was, at least the current construct of it, I would say is not the permanent, what it's gonna look like permanent.
I will say the parks, I live near Heritage Oak Park, and it's really nice to see you have your soccer being played. I see many times on weekends you have volleyball, so people just come up and set up. There are many birthday parties there, so having use of the grills, having use of the tables is really nice. I don't see many people at all playing on the structure that is closer to Portland. That was there supposedly set up for access for all people. They can, for all kids of all abilities, which sounds like a good idea, but when you have bark there, wheelchairs can't roll there. And it is not well used at all. I think it's a very low used park, actually, for the structure. The one prior to was highly used, and anyway.
So how would you like to see that changed?
I would like to see it back into having your slides, having not just ropes and balance and strength, but to have play items that older kids can use. So that way, when you have the younger kids playing their soccer, youth can have their 8 to 12-year-olds or so playing at a playground that is actually age appropriate, not just, let's try to stand on this rope and walk across.
I wanted to comment on the downtown traffic lights, is that,
Absolutely.
I am really happy with the way that the traffic lights have changed with the bright lights and the street lights shining at the same time. It really makes the traffic stop. There used to be a time when somebody, put the lights on because they were waiting to cross, but the cars kept going. But now with this change, everyone stops because, the bright lights are right up in your face. But there is a change that I wanted to ask for, and that is if we could add, when the lights turn on and it starts to get open for the traffic, there's a white hand that comes up and beeping sounds can be heard. If we can have those sounds be louder, then for the ones that are hearing impaired, it would be better. Similarly, the cars that have blaring music inside them can actually hear the beeps. And perhaps we can have the beeps program to start just ahead of the light.
I do like the improvement of the stop signs in downtown on State Street on Second and Third, making it similar to what happens on Main Street, so that way people can cross and traffic slows down. I thought that was a great addition.
These are lights.
Those are just stop signs, four-way stop,
Okay. Forward.
rather than a two-way stop.
Is there a possibility of adding a light that is optionally turned on, like when you want to cross the street and the sign turns on, a light turns on in the hills because we have no lights in the entire hills area?
I'm not sure if I understand you. What do you mean lights in the hills? Like neighborhood lights?
No.
Street lights?
Street lights, but we don't have any street lights. So at the stoplight, if we have a light that can be turned on with a switch if you're crossing. Because in the evenings, it's very dark, and no matter how much we tell people, they don't wear reflective gear.
So that would eliminate any crossing, you just press a button.
Throughout, you're talking about throughout the city? Or are you just talking about throughout the city? Okay.
Throughout the city, but especially in areas where there are no street lights. Okay.
And is that common standard, not having street lights through the neighborhoods?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very nice thing that we don't have them, but sometimes I think we do need them. Early mornings, you can't see anybody, and people wear dark clothes.
Love to. Down by Loyola Corners, we do have property down there that used to be a coffee shop and a film shop, and then I know the city owns it. I'm not sure where but I think there is opportunity there. That's an oddball corner, and to have some sort of design to be able to traffic mitigate. I don't think a park would be necessarily a good spot because you're right in the middle of CO2, but maybe adding trees, which would be nice to take out and add a. But we do have a building there, which could be a meeting place. Or, I
Are
mean,
these vacant buildings
it's currently a vacant building, yes.
owned by the city? Okay.
And that includes. Parking places, which could offer some parking.
Oh, is this a time we can talk about the farmer's market?
Hold on one sec. Okay, let's focus a little more on, farmer's market, we can get a little bit later on. Sidewalks, roads, do you think there's like enough bicycle lanes? Do you think it's safe for people in general to cross the streets? We've touched on that a little bit. Are signs legible when you're driving around?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. What about sidewalks in general? Do you find that they're well maintained, the areas that do have sidewalks? Or no?
Well, I know Miramonte between Portland and Barry. That is a very bumpy because of all the tree roots that have grown.
Okay.
I think Los Altos has done a really good job in putting in more bike lanes.
Safe to school bike lane.
Right.
Do you think there is enough police enforcement in regards to speeding, people stopping at signs?
Right now with the freeway at Berry, you just roll right through.
Yeah, the connector street for folks coming off the highway, off of the freeway, yeah.
So it's Miramonte and what? Barry? Okay,
Also, any of the streets that go off of El Monte,
People coming off the highway are just parking there. And, there's not enough. They park in ways that would obstruct people driving on those streets.
Can be a problem when school's going in and out across the street. There's a daycare, there's a regular middle school, and there is the charter school. So there's a lot of traffic going through Covington, which is then considered another connecting street.
what's the name of the street again?
Covington, so Covington between Grant and Miramonte.
Yes.
I appreciate you doing this survey. Could it be helpful, I think, because as we're doing a virtual meeting and it's being recorded, it would be helpful if you help to preface it, explaining that you're gathering information. I know you did a short explanation, but whoever watched the videos, to help them understand how this information for this survey will be used and what you're hoping that this commission will represent as you ask these questions.
So basically what we're doing is we're taking the information from this focus group, the task force group. There's gonna be a third focus group, a general focus group of the community. The AARP survey, also kind of work plans that you've done in the past. And the certification process you went through in the past, kind of gathering all that information and really just kind of developing an action plan that kind of goes over kind of those unmet needs, what potential projects you'd like to do in these various 8 domains that we're discussing today. I will also put together like a potential spreadsheet of those projects, and then the task force will be looking at that and kind of prioritizing which ones they think would be most important. And then we'll figure out what's short-term and what's long-term potential goals. This is only to serve as a roadmap for your city council and for your community. Once we have it done and you have it in your hands, you can add to it, you can delete, you can do whatever you want, but we're just providing the foundation from the input of the community members. That's kind of basically what it is in a nutshell. Is that okay?
It's maybe for, I think that when people watch the video, to help them understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
We also have a facility, Grant Park, which is an aged primary school built in, I believe it was built in the 50s. And we've taken over in the last maybe 10 years We've taken it over as a senior center and a community center. So the building needs some upgrades. I know that they're on the chart to be done. It's heating, air conditioning, electrical, as well as some aesthetics things that could be done to improve that facility.
And it was called, which, Grant Park, okay. What do you think about, do you think there's enough benches in your parks or walking trails or throughout the city? And, you know, when you have city events and so forth, you feel there's enough seating for people? Especially older people?
Well, I know that we've had some concerts in the park at Grant Park, and there really isn't any seating. It's either sitting on the grass or you bring your own chair.
Okay. What about the parks in general? Like if you're visiting the park, let's say you're with grandkids or you're hanging out with your friends, are there enough resting places?
They could use more of Heritage Oaks and also in downtown Los Altos.
Okay. I know in our earlier meeting, we talked about the potential of doing maybe a survey of where additional benches could be located, which would be helpful. Okay. Anything else you'd like to add in that domain?
I do like how the bookstore downtown they provide seating outside there. And so that does offer community space for even high schoolers and whomever is walking by. I think, the bank, do you think? The bank does that, right? And the bank also does that. So that's a nice added.
So possibly have maybe more businesses have benches if possible? Okay. If there's nothing else, we'll go to the next domain, which is transportation. What do you think the strengths are in transportation in Los Altos? Is there enough public transportation? Okay, there's a big no there. Okay, you want to elaborate a little bit?
Speaking especially about the seniors with whom I volunteer, there's a group of seniors who are facing a lot of mobility issues because they do not drive. They do not drive themselves. And they would really, really love to have a shuttle bus that would take them around town, maybe once a day, come in from both the hills and Los Altos and go around back again. And so that they can buy groceries, buy medicines, or just socialize. We have this two beautiful community centers where they can come meet each other and have some time to talk with anybody, but they can't reach. And they're reluctant to spend on outreach or Uber. So a shuttle bus would be really welcome. Okay.
And then are the residents that you know aware of the ride program through the city?
Some people do avail of it. Some people have issues that they cannot circumvent so that they could get reimbursement for their rides. And so again and again, we keep coming back to, if there was a shuttle bus.
Okay, but back to what you just said in regards to having maybe difficulty with the process of the existing program because of reimbursement and so forth. How do you think you could make that process easier?
There is a solution that we have thought of. If at both Grant, the library, and here, we had access to more numbers of computer terminals and somebody to guide those who are not so familiar with the use of these computers. And they are able to fill forms, they're able to complete documents while here so that they don't have to carry them home and forget what they were supposed to do. I think that would help.
All right. Anything else about transportation? Whether it's automobiles, a ride source like Uber, Lyft, do you think most people know how to use those? Or do you think there should be additional tech classes that teaches people how to use those apps? Do you think older adults trust the apps? And do you think there is, let's say, bicycle available for, let's say, kids that need to ride the bike to get to and from places within the city?
I know that, the rec department did a great job in trying to promote the ride sharing program that's going on, and that was pre-COVID. And, my feeling is that many seniors got so comfortable staying home. It's just too hard and not computer savvy and just don't want to be bothered. Where before they were much more active and involved.
Interesting observation.
What do you think the best way for them to communicate, if they could just do it by phone? I mean, how would that work?
Communicate, I think it's motivated. I don't think it's that they couldn't use phone, don't have places to call. I think they're just not motivated to do anything.
Is that ennui or because they are military? Well,
Oh, yes.
ennui is very difficult to treat.
So you think it's more because part of it could be habitual because people were home for such long periods of time, COVID?
That would be a place for intergenerational connection.
Okay. Anything else you want to add on transportation? Other things you'd want implemented besides maybe a shuttle service? And making it easier for people to utilize the existing ride program through Los Altos?
Repair the roads.
Okay.
It's a bumpy drive down Miramonte, multiple other streets.
Any other streets come to mind, or you can always email me those streets?
I'd be happy to.
Okay, that'd be great.
Having a schedule for when they will be repaired would be generating hope.
So kind of having a master plan for this street work.
Good suggestion. Yeah. I can add one more thing.
Sure.
Jane had a good suggestion. The times that I think would be most suitable for
Helpful shuttle service would be around like 10 o'clock in the morning. And allow them to return before 2 or before 1:30 or something like that.
Having structured.
So you feel that people would go, come out of their homes between the hours of maybe 10 and let's say 2?
yes,
Okay.
so that they
Come here, do their work, meet
Sure.
people.
then go.
Okay,
Senior friendly hours.
there you go.
And going to the library would be a good resource as well. It'd be a great meetup place as well as coming down here to the community center.
Exactly.
So no, we have really nice places where people can meet. And we have these LL50 programs which are becoming so popular, very nicely done. But just to get here.
Sure.
And be able to get home. Yeah. Okay.
In terms of eating places, ones that could be structured with large tables so that people who did not know the other one across the way would be able to have a conversation. So if you're gonna have it at lunchtime, might as well make it easy for it to be forming a social community with gastronomic bonding. Restaurants supplying the food would be probably happy with that too.
Okay. Great. All right, our next domain is housing. What do you think the strengths are in the housing stock here in Los Altos? Or are you gonna have more unmet needs, I think? Like I said, I try to get strengths first. All right, what do you think the unmet needs are in housing? When you say senior housing, do you think people in general prefer to be in housing that is kind of similar age groups? Or do you think older adults wouldn't mind more of intergenerational type housing?
Intergenerational minus toddlers.
Or teenagers.
Well, there's a research study, I think it's in Sweden, where they did intergenerational housing. And there was ages specified, and I'm not sure you can really legally do that here. But they had young adults, so like 18 to 30, and then they had older adults, like 55 and over. And so it would be more affordable rent for the older adults. And then the younger adults would get discounted rent. But in exchange for the discounted rent, they would have to spend a certain amount of hours each week with the older adults. And that could be playing cards or board games, during the week in the common area. Because they'd have the way it was situated, there was a common area and kitchen. But then each of the units had their own kitchens. So they'd have, spend a certain amount of time in the common area, or they would drive them to the grocery stores or the library or wherever they needed to go. And if they fulfilled a certain amount of hours, then they continued with their discounted rent.
How did that work?
From what I understand, it worked very well because they're showing too, and many of you are probably familiar with the Surgeon General's report of increased percentage of people, both young and old, loneliness is huge. And so with this research study, they had talked about how the interaction of both was complementary for both people, not just one or the other. And it also gave more of a sense of a community type housing situation.
I think that if there is housing that would have a central courtyard of some type,
Okay.
that would lead to more social interaction.
Sure. I think the other thing that's helpful too, if you have some type of kind of like community garden within the complex.
Also being able to age in place. I think we're hearing that a lot from many of the seniors in our senior community, is more support in how to age in place.
So an educational series that would be ongoing because people will come in and out of that time of making decisions like that. Because one of the things that would be useful for getting people together would be activities attended by people who don't know each other, where they meet. And so having educational programs on the technique of an efficient age-in-place system, because that would have to start for people certainly in their 50s. It can become difficult when, if you have children, they move someplace else. Then a lot of seniors have to move there ultimately and disrupt their social network. So creating, I used the term last time, co-housing, but areas in which the lower rent is balanced with higher personal input.
So at our previous meeting with the task force, we touched a little bit on what we call HIP housing in San Mateo County, where let's say older couple or person that might be by themselves in their home and would like some socialization or help financially, they could rent out their room. And so HIP housing partners kind of the young adult with the older adults. And they've had really good success, and that's kind of how, they get that discounted rent. And then, that person or persons help then the older couple or person in things that they need done. And it could be something like, cooking a meal, or it could be going out for a walk, or whatever it is that they stipulate amongst each other of what they like done.
So that would support aging in place, because the extra 5 bedrooms that they have could be put to good use in their $5 million house.
Well, and it helps with their income because they might be house rich, but cash poor. Yeah. And HIP does the screening too, because that would be the other important aspect, is the safety aspect of that. Okay,
If I screen,
yes. Mhm. And on the whole, they've had very few issues. Now, sometimes you can partner up and they may not get along, and so then they, hopefully they're able to agree to break the lease and let them go and then get somebody else.
Can I
Yes.
ask, does it also help with the homeowner to do minor upgrades, so that way there is, say, a room that might have a small kitchenette? Do they offer contractors with that?
No, they don't. Most of these are kind of, the room is within the house itself and you share kitchen facilities. There's also, though, the ADU setup where you have the home and a separate ADU that was built. And then the ADUs with state law has to have some type of kitchenette in it.
So the ADU would be the financial responsibility of the homeowner.
To build it, yes. And then they ask then for the rent, correct. Now, there might be some cities that might subsidize. I don't know of any off the top of my head. I know I went to a convention this past week in San Francisco where LA, their housing department is partnering up with a nonprofit organization where they're partnering people with homes that have ADUs, but the nonprofit offers holistic approach of health. And so they have some, mental health services. They have programs for older adults to participate in, like recreation, programs. They have, relationships with, clinics and so forth. So that when somebody, let's say, rents the ADU, they subsidize a good portion of it. They have the tenant pay 1/3 of the cost, and then the city picks up the rest. And they do all these interviews, with the homeowner and tenants, and then the homeowner gets to interview 3 tenants and then pick one of the 3. And then they do actually much longer leases. They'll do like a 3 to 5 year lease, because what they're doing is they're getting older people that may have, let's say, recently lost their job, or some crisis happened in their life and they're barely making the rent. Well, most of these ADUs are cheaper rent. And so they're trying to prevent those people from becoming homeless. And this is kind of the transition period where they stay until the city then finds them permanent housing. And this program apparently has been in effect now for 2 years, and it's working actually quite well. So it's a nice way where Okay, somebody can go to the ADU, but they have all the holistic approach medicine there for them. Where they, they can be picked up, brought to the place, do what they need to do, and then be driven back to the ADU, and then they're having reasonable rent, so their housing is kept. So it was a very interesting program. I think it's the first of its kind, I think, in the United States. Okay, so I think we've covered housing. The next one is social participation. So do you think there are enough programs that are offered through the city? Do you think there's many kind of gathering spots in the city? What do you think the strengths are there, and where do you think maybe improvements can be made?
Well, I think we have some lovely gathering spots, being this building, this facility is just gorgeous. We have the Grant Park, we have the History Museum, we've got the library. We do have a satellite library at South Los Altos. And just some of the programs, the first Friday nights downtown. We have the concerts in the park that we have during the summertime. There are a lot of, there's the Easter parade, there's the
Pet parade.
the pet parade. We have the January 1st run, or forgot the name of it, but we do get a lot of people for that.
You said the January 1st, right?
Yeah.
New Year's Day run.
New Year's Day run. We do the 4th of July. the
Farmers
Chicago-
markets.
Festival of Lights.
Yeah.
Very small town.
It is.
Opportunities for engagement with the bubble walk and the bubble stroll, the beer stroll, put on by Southwest Village Association. They
Oh, so you have a village association okay.
do many of the events downtown. They do the Art and Wine Festival downtown.
Now, is that different from the Chamber of Commerce? Do you have a Chamber of Commerce too? Okay.
A fine art in the park.
So when you talk about social participation, you're talking about social participation for seniors, correct?
That is mainly
when
my
you're talking
focus,
about-
yes. I still want to be inclusive of everyone,
Right,
but the
right.
focus is on older adults, yeah.
Right. So when you're talking about like the hours of the senior center and things like that, do you feel that it is sufficient and things like that? That's what you want to understand.
I want to understand that too,
Yeah.
yes. Because I know you have two senior centers, the
Mhm,
big one and then a smaller one, correct?
mhm.
Now I do remember reading, I don't remember which year it was of the information I was looking at. There were some focus groups that mentioned they'd like to see extended hours, the community center.
Yes.
Do you feel the same?
As personal people have talked to me about that, and wish there were more hours, during the week for the senior center, particularly Grant Park.
Grant Park, okay. And what do you think would be ideal hours?
At least till 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Because it closes what, at 2:30?
Close at 2 now.
Okay.
It's only open 2 days a week.
The Grant Park facility, right. Was it open all days before?
I would also like to add,
Lynette, I didn't hear what you said. What did you say?
It's only open 2 days a week, and I'm sure
Grant
that
Park,
people
yeah.
would like to see it open for more days.
I'd also like to add, there's an age group of seniors that don't consider themselves seniors. And to be able to offer programs for them which will help them live vibrantly until they're older. And currently there's a great opportunity for that.
That's the 50 and over program.
I'm thinking like a speaker program to help people understand what you can do in your life now to help with your brain health. with your heart health, with, mental health, and offer programs at times that these people are working, when they have families, at times where it would be convenient for them, so that way they have a balanced life, they have coping mechanisms, and it's also, yeah, I think that is definitely needed, because
It's more preventative of health.
preventative, you get the
And also-
holistic
right,
part,
mhm.
and on medicine, and you have control over it yourself, and you learn how to,
Sure.
and you pass that on to your kids, so it's becomes generational, and then with these classes, you have socialization and people more than just knowing people because if your kids are in school, and now that they're out of high school, your friend group might stay the same, but it changes. Yeah. And it diminishes.
Well, this way you're broadening your horizons a little bit.
There is a rite of passage for middle-aged adults, and it's called retirement. And, like all rites of passage, it can be bumpy in the sense of an uncertain future, common fears of, what am I gonna do? Who am I? And so, is that taken as an opportunity to provide things that would interest people of that age? And I'm not talking about the dot-com age of in the late 20s, that used to be retirement age. More toward the social security age, which encompasses the vibrant, active people who shy from being considered seniors. But they don't shy from being retired. That seems to be opening opportunities, rather than, being stigmatic.
Well, it's how you, keep involved with the community. Especially, if you've been working day in and day out, and then all of a sudden, you kind of wake up one morning and go, now what do I do? And I think preparing for that, actually, when they're a little younger, kind of thinking about retirement, will maybe develop kind of that journey for them and options to think about that they may not have thought about, or developing hobbies, because many times people don't have hobbies when they're working, because all they're doing is working and they're raising children, and that's a full-time plus job,
One of the other treacherous times is the sudden discovery that you need help. And hence, planning for that time. Nobody can plan for the last 10 years of their life unless they know what both ends are. And hence, encouraging people to have some sense of both economic planning, which often people do, but they don't plan for senior residency. They don't plan for needing caregiving. They don't plan for end-of-life care. So these are topics which often, as I've mentioned before, are taboo, that can be introduced in the continuum of the city providing pertinent education of relevant topics. The relevant topics for the empty nest are going to be for a certain group of people at a certain age. For retirement, again, certain group of people at a certain age.
And to your point on that, when we offer these lectures or presentations at Grant Park specifically, it's during the lunch hour, after lunch hour, these people are working.
Yeah.
I think
So providing more evening
Yeah,
programs.
yeah.
And now, Is this center open at all on the weekend?
So the,
Briefly,
Although the adult 50+ specific rooms are not, which has as the commissioners mentioned, it closes at 2. The community center itself has extended hours, so we are open from 8 to 7, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5 on Fridays, and 9 to 4 on Saturdays. So this space is available, and accessible. So to the commissioner's points, we absolutely could provide, different opportunities besides just during the typical adult 50+ program hours. But there would absolutely be flexibility in accessing those hours as
Okay.
well.
So I'll just kind of put that as potential projects that there, programs could be potentially offered in evening hours. Okay. Because we want to make sure we catch everyone in the community. Because there may be some people that, yes, are working all week and it's only evening or weekends. And then, older adults that, usually may not want to drive in the evening would like their programs during the day.
and the concept of when do I leave work has been extended to probably 9 o'clock in the evening for a lot of people.
The weekends would be,
Weekends would be better.
Meetings would be absolutely necessary. And again, an 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock class.
It's too late.
But
what age group?
for certain age groups who are working and can't get out of work until 7:30.
Different age group.
Not necessarily, not different age group. It could be, there are people, say I go to the Burlingame Community Center, I actually have a class from 8 to 9 in the evening. Because I'm working most all day, and by the time I get home and get dinner, out, it's 8 o'clock. And there are people there from 50s to 70s in the class I go to. So I think it just depends. We can't make the assumption of certain age groups go at certain times. You just want as much flexibility with time as possible for any age group.
I think the season, it depends on the season too, when daylight savings time
Sure.
happens.
Mhm.
Because, 8 o'clock is still light now, but, in the middle of winter, it's 4:30, it's getting dark, so sometimes that's the issue.
Yeah, but
Driving.
unfortunately, they keep the lights on inside the workplace, and they still don't let you out until 7:30.
No, I know that part, but I'm saying coming here for an activity.
Right, I think, like I said, I think you have to try to be, and of course, it always depends fiscally, because you have to have staff, for those additional hours that you have to think about. That we can't put people in boxes, and that's what society does. And that's what we're trying to break, is that you can have a person in there, like, my dad is 82, still works, and is in construction. So, and he'd go anywhere in the evening, my mom's 80, she's out and about all the time, all hours. But they may not be the norm. You might have others that, okay, we want our programs done by 6 o'clock in the evening or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But then you have others that can be 30s, 40s, 50s that have children, can only get out at certain times. So evening is probably going to work better. And then weekends can be flexible for all age groups. So we have to try to remember when we talk that we don't put people in boxes. Okay.
I think if we're going to initiate programs, they need to be managed as research would be done. In the sense of determining metrics that would say, what are the successes? How do you measure success of a program? And that is going to, and also how the programs are marketed. So you've got to include that element of a business-like approach. And then you engage transportation. the provision of, food available, childcare available. All of these things would affect participation from either wider or more narrow, user groups.
Yes, and then also you may want to continue, I don't know if you're doing this still, recreation department, of having some things that are virtual, that they may not be able to go out. Maybe they can't drive in the evening, let's say, but if it's offered virtually, they'll do it at home. Or, you have kids and you don't have the backup daycare, but you can go into a separate, room in your house and be able to do maybe an exercise class or listen to a talk or something like that. So having, some of the virtual actually does come in handy too. What would you like to add?
While we are talking about the merits of starting new programs and the evening, I wanted to also, before you close this topic, that I wanted to appreciate what we actually do have, and especially my work with the group that I am volunteering with, they're discovering how great the adult 50 plus programming already is. And one of the things that we are currently trying to explore is how to reach out and participate more in the subsidized lunch program. And one of the things that the group suggested in that subsidized lunch program was, if we wanted to have more cultural participation across cultures, then if we could have theme-based subsidized lunches, for example, Middle Eastern lunch, or, some other, kosher lunch, or I'm not sure what other types of, those kinds of lunches, and you could go participate, meet people of different cultures, and, or in Indian lunch. And would be fun and something new to try. This program already exists as part of the 50 plus group or maybe the centers, but a new
You're
spin-off.
enhancing it.
Yeah.
Brisbane, actually, I worked with the city of Brisbane and they did that. Actually, they did a once a month cultural event where they actually talked to their restaurants and the restaurants would donate the food from various cultural food.
Yeah.
And they said they had a great showing. It was really a good way to bring a community together. So, because you do want, your businesses are part of your community.
We have cultural foods at the Grand Park Senior Program, and they're good about rotating that. We just don't get it for free.
If we went and promoted it as a culture.
Well, and it also raises the awareness of their businesses. So they get to meet, more people and people are tasting their food and so forth. They're like, oh, we're gonna try your store. We're gonna try your restaurant. So. And they've been, according to Brisbane now, they're small city. There's only 4,200 people. But even if you did that twice a year, they may be more apt to kind of volunteer and, maybe some free food. And then maybe see kind of the long-term goal of we're actually getting more people coming to our restaurants because we're offering this. So, okay. Great.
It could also be cultural, food preparation, or cooking lessons.
Cooking classes? Burlingame does that, and it's popular. And it's popular amongst all age groups.
I took my son to one.
Okay,
He now knows how to make pasta from scratch.
there you go. Perfect. All right, so our next domain, because I'm gonna try to go quickly through the rest of this, is respect and social inclusion. We've talked a little bit about the social inclusion in regards to kind of cultural events and activities that are multicultural. Do you think that older adults in general are respected in your community?
Yes.
Okay.
But not integrated.
Okay.
There does not seem to be active ageism perhaps some pickleball court.
Okay. Do the schools have activities where you see kind of that intergenerational gathering? Do you know?
PTA.
Maybe at Christmas time, they might go sing at senior centers.
Okay.
Uh,
Do the schools have a lot of older adult volunteers? Do you know?
Schools don't normally
No, but
welcome
they're-
volunteerism no more because of security purposes and having to get clearances. They
But even
don't,
if you did background checks?
yeah, they don't
Okay,
encourage it as much.
okay.
Yeah, even as a parent volunteer, you have to go and get a picture.
Even
If you're a
for
driver, you have to
volunteering
get.
for the senior centers, you have to go through the clearance too.
Right. I mean, for most things you do, but the question just kind of asks of, it's one way of getting generations integrating with each other. It also older adults and provide their wisdom and history to the kids and kids appreciate that. And then the older adults appreciate the feedback from the kids and they both benefit from each other. Yes, will it be a pain kind of doing all the background checks and so forth? We kind of do it already for things, so I'm not sure if that should be a hindrance, let's put it that way.
If you get more bucks for the bang, if you do gardening in schools, it would be assisted by adults who like to garden.
Yep.
And then kids get fresh food.
Okay. It's a good idea. Okay, the next topic is civic participation and employment. Do you think that older adults have opportunities to get involved with city commissions, advisory boards? Okay. Well, it's good that you have a senior commission. There are many cities that don't. Do you think there's enough employment and volunteer opportunities in the city?
Maybe, but employment, perhaps not, because most employment opportunities may not be part-time or virtual, which would be the preferred way for seniors to participate in employment opportunities. They would be full-time and in person, which they may not want to do anymore.
Okay.
So job sharing,
Job sharing would be very nice.
History Center, the History Museum has volunteers, extensive volunteer system.
and they're close to that.
They're only open on the weekend. We need more volunteers.
Anything else you'd like to add?
So volunteer, I'm sitting, there are a lot of people that would like to volunteer. It's a matter of activities that go on.
Okay.
So I know, I'm a member of Rotary, and there are a number of different activities that we do. Coming up, we have a project Trexit, which it is collecting plastics that are not number one, number two, it's the baggies and those type of things. And the different projects that we do throughout town, those are volunteer opportunities, not necessarily, you have to be a Rotarian. But I'm just thinking how, I think getting the word out is, how do you do that?
How do you communicate it?
How do you communicate? Even with the city, I was, asking my pickleball group, do you know what activities are going on? Do you get any emails from the city? And they don't. They've written notes, but it's a matter of, okay.
So you just opened up the segue to the next domain, which is communication and information. So there is a e-news that goes out from the city. So do you think that most people don't know about it? Okay. And how do you think you could help disseminate that information? Cause it's there.
I understand.
Yeah.
It's a matter of what makes it important for them? And it's trying to figure out their why. Why would I want to receive another email?
That is the hard part about it, because people receive so many emails that they don't read them all, or they just go trash, 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 delete.
And the other question, which I don't have an answer to, is how do you get to those non-reachable elders that don't have a computer, that are locked up in their home, that do need the help, and they don't know how to outreach?
Access.
Then some of us would help them, they would come to some.
But they need to know the information that is even available, so it's.
Also,
Communication and information is problematic among seniors. It's a concern that they're gonna be scammed or taken advantage of.
I'm talking even about people that are younger than me, that don't consider themselves seniors, even though they are. And they are still working, but they are unaware. And I don't have I know you're doing everything that's out there. I don't know how to reach it,
So, we've talked, this has been a common theme amongst all the cities that I have worked with. And so, there is a great reliance on the electronics, of course. But not everyone relies on it, or they get inundated with the emails and they don't pay attention. So, we've done, electronic boards throughout, the city, flyers in kind of gathering spaces, or like, cafes that we know a lot of people go in and out of. Also partnering with schools in disseminating city information, and in return, the city disseminates school information in regards to events. So that it's promoting events for both jurisdictions, and all age groups. So that's kind of a new thing that some of the cities are doing, right now. And of course, having flyers in, libraries, recreation, departments, having kiosks at the parks. Because a lot of people do go to the parks. So it's just kind of looking at, okay, what areas do people go to? What are the gathering spaces throughout the city? And kind of putting those, flyers in those areas.
Starbucks and Pete's.
Yep, Starbucks and Pete's, and there's, always kind of like in Burlingame, we call it the greasy diner. It's where all the older people hang out from 7 in the morning until 10 o'clock almost every weekday. And so we started giving them, on the counter, different flyers, and sure enough, they started picking them up.
That's Fresh Choice in Mary and Fremont.
So it's just kind of finding those gathering spaces. It's another way of kind of it's still, it's old school, but
Yeah, it
it
works.
seems to work. So, also faith-based organizations is another way of disseminating information.
They would be very willing to cooperate on this because the few faith-based organizations that still have a congregation, the vast majority are generally seniors. And so, as I mentioned in the previous session, the toxicity of the word senior has been changed to wisdom generation. Even older and smarter sometimes. And that, again, detoxifying the concept of the word senior. And then using the areas where there's a special interest of that organization, the welfare of the seniors. Because they're the ones that have made the money that they can, which is the faith community. I know that there are groups that transcend a particular faith
Another, topic we touched upon, in the first group that has to do with, the kind of communication and information is kind of developing like little neighborhood network communities. So you're kind of, whether it's like a 2-block or 3-block vicinity, it helps also with emergency services, is developing a directory of those neighbors in a short, or a small vicinity. Their names, their phone numbers, their addresses, their profession. Because if there's an emergency, it's nice to know where the police officers, doctors, nurses, plumbers, anyone who has extra generators, that type of thing. And it's one way of getting to know the neighborhoods. And then they also do neighborhood block parties. And that is a time where I know Burlingame, we've done it with these kind of smaller networks, is that they'll call the city and say, hey, can we have the police department and fire department come by for an hour and just kind of talk about what they do in the city? Or we'll have council members that we send out that will talk to them about city events and what the city has been working on. So it's, not the big neighborhoods, but kind of breaking it down to smaller neighborhoods. And once you get to know your neighbors, then that communication also is better, because there's usually one out of the group that knows a lot of what's going on in the city.
We do have what we call a BAT program.
Yes, that was mentioned, yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so we do have the networking, but, because I was helping with my neighborhood in there were many who didn't want to give you information. I
Yeah.
want to give you my phone number, I want
Right.
to give you my.
Has to be voluntary. Yep, you're right. But then maybe if you have those kind of neighborhood parties every once in a while, they might come out and kind of see, oh, I actually have some really cool neighbors here, and then they might be a little more open. I can understand not wanting to right off the bat if you don't really know your neighbors, very well. But I think once you kind of have a few events that you're around the same people, trust develops. But we have to be patient. It takes time.
We do have a successful block action team program, and then within each BAT, they are very familiar and they have a close network.
Do they have little directories by any chance?
They have, so each BAT will have information and contact information amongst each other, yeah.
And do you think there is kind of a bat neighborhood throughout the city, or do you think it's in certain areas that are more so than others?
Each one is like their own little network
Uh-huh.
for their neighborhood.
And do you think most neighborhoods are represented? Because that's the
Well, we
better
could
part.
always have more.
Develop
BAT.
more, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Do you know how many are in the city now?
Gosh, I don't know how many now.
All right, and then kind of to wrap up, we have community and health services. So basically, do you think there are enough clinics, hospitals, health fairs in your city that, people are aware of, or maybe you don't have many health fairs or?
You're shaking your head, yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I was going to talk about, if we spoke of the market, that we should have a booth, because we have a summer market every week, but there's no place where there's a booth for, let's say, a senior who wants to come and have their blood pressure checked.
Okay.
If we just included that, that would really help. But we don't have enough. There's one Los Altos clinic on El Camino, that's it. There's nothing else. We have 2 hospitals close by, but not enough.
We used to have, the thing in the past, there used to be a health fair that we used to host in the city. And yeah, it would have to be once again an effort led by the senior commission, but we used to.
But the demographic that we have in Los Altos and Los Altos Hills, would they benefit on having a health fair?
Yeah, we used to have a lot of vendors that would come. And then what happened would be like at Lacey, all these vendors would come to provide information.
Yeah, a potential project with that, and it's worked well in San Mateo County. Now granted, I worked with Supervisor Canepa. We would partner with the county and cities have done that. Actually, Burlingame just did it recently, and I think Millbrae, and they had it at their community centers.
Right.
Is they utilized a bunch of community, vendors that were willing to come to the community center. They just had to provide the community center, and the tables and the chairs, and all the vendors came in. And I know Burlingame had theirs, and we thought, oh, we'll get some Burlingame people. We were getting people from Foster City to Burlingame and people from Daly City to Burlingame. So it was a constant flow of people and a wide variety of vendors. So that might be something, you want to consider with Santa Clara County.
How does that work?
Emails went out from the cities, to their, constituents. The county did some of the advertising. The Daily Journal put it in their paper, the local paper.
So what kind of vendors were showing up?
They had, eye doctors that were there. They had, somebody from the Adult and Aging Services. They had, actually, one of the cops came to do a little thing on scammers. They had, blood pressure tests. They had someone there to talk about diabetes. They had another talking about cardiovascular disease, another vendor in regards to strokes, what signs to look for. And they, had little things to pass out and, And usually I think in general, home health agencies. So I think, in general, the counties, and I'm sure Santa Clara is the same, they are more than willing to come out and do things.
We also have those other nonprofit agencies that come that provide services for seniors or home care services for even helping to help people who maybe have losses in their family and, group services. There's a lot of nonprofits, and I just ended up going to one when I was in a conference in Burbank, and they had a bunch of, food services that help seniors that are homebound and things like that.
Yeah,
So,
we had called Primrose as one of the food
Yeah.
services that were there. Second Harvest, I think, showed up. So it's something definitely consider as a potential, project futuristically. You might as well use the resources that are already here.
yeah.
Because there's plenty of nonprofit, organizations. And the other thing too, we talked a little bit about the first meeting is, as I mentioned, like San Mateo County has a resource book. It's called Help at Home. And it's geared toward more for resources for seniors, that they pass out and they bring to the recreation, centers. Also new in San Mateo County is they have a new, transportation resource book. And then, Santa Clara has a resource book. I just don't know the exact name. I'll have to look that up.
We have a new curriculum for the Mountain View.
Oh, okay.
Jason did it, he initiated that.
There's, that would be, actually, he'd be a very good speaker. So it's always good, not to always reinvent the wheel. Use the resources that are out there. It's just a matter of, okay, how do we communicate those resources and how do we get the people that are from those nonprofits to help the city itself and, be a representative.
Do we have some sort of directory from when we had our fair here?
I don't recall. I know that it was led by Tracy, who I remember was the one of the commissioners that was the lead on it, but I don't recall. It was a while ago.
So I'd like to thank you because we got through all the domains with a couple minutes to spare. But I would like to thank you for your input, very informative. If, I'm assuming they have my email, maybe not?
No, but if there are additional pieces that you would like to share, you can always send it directly to me. They have my contact
Perfect.
information, and then I can coordinate directly with Ann.
That would be great, because then I can add those, to these notes, because there might have been things you think of later when you leave, or you might think of certain streets with the, the lights you'd like to see, or programs and so forth. Please feel free to, email, Jamie, you know, within the next few days, because I'll be working on these reports and then I'll integrate all that in. Okay, great, thank you. I just, quite welcome, quite welcome.
So, Ann?
Yes.
Other, cities at their, recreational facilities, they have little health, medical clinics. It would be nice if we could see something like those recreational medical clinics come by as well.
Like a bookmobile, you know, like
Yeah,
Stanford, you could.
Or they help monthly, or also drop in like respite care for those, aging, families with seniors that need a break, like for a few hours, they can have, respite care, services. Like, just like how some communities have, those daycares, if they can have it for seniors as well, because that's a very popular thing in Hawaii. And so, yeah, so. Mhm.
Also, we have Alzheimer's daycare.
Yeah, so if they can have it, so people can have a break, you know, but know that their loved ones are in a safe,
In safe hands.
yeah.
Well, I know I came
Right.
across a study not that long ago in Russia. What they do is, they have all their, you know, train stops. And so I think it's once a month, they do this kind of whole certain section of Russia. They stop at all the stops. Everyone knows ahead of time, and they'll do insulin screening or glucose screening, kidney screening, cardiac screening, a whole bunch of different things. And it's once a month, and they just stop at the train stations and people meet them there and they make their appointments ahead of time, which I thought was cool. I never heard of that before. You know, so it's just trying to kind of think of things maybe that we don't necessarily do here that is done, you know, elsewhere. And that has been done in other countries too. They pick various spots. But because their trains, certain trains are underutilized, then they kind of pack it with their health personnel. And then they go, you know, stop to stop once a month. Mhm. Exactly, yep, exactly. All right, very good. Well, thank you again and have a great evening.
So Jamie, we are at 5 o'clock, 2 minutes to 5. I was wondering, we have informational items and subcommittee oral reports. Is it all right if we put them into the future for next month?
So if we, I don't think the next few pieces will take too long. I know Anne has to go at 5, but we can do just, the small pieces. The informational piece, which is the next one, so we did get the results from our AARP survey. And, that was attached so that you would have additional time to look through. It is a very comprehensive breakdown of all the questions that, and the one thing that I will share that Anne shared, for the size city, she said that we did a fantastic job in getting a great number of responses. We had 316 total. So about, 68 of those were hard copy. The remainder actually were done online. So, we actually got a great number, and so I wanted informationally to get that information to the commission so that you would have a chance to look at it. We can add that to the agenda for May so that we could do a more in-depth review by the commission. But that's the only part I wanted to preface there.
But will it be sent to us?
Yes, actually, it was a part of the packet. Yes, and so we also do have hard copies if you want to take one home with you. But it is posted online, as part of the packet that was for today, since it was listed as an informational item. I won't go in detail, but the other flyers as well for upcoming events, both here in Los Altos and in Los Altos Hills, those were included as well. The few things I wanted to highlight, so as Anne kind of described, this is just one component that we will have in getting feedback. What I wanted to highlight is that coming up, we will have the additional third focus group and a kind of a general town hall as well. I will get that information out to the commission. But, I wanted to highlight at least on the age-friendly side, there is the third additional focus group that we have. We did the task force, we have the senior commission, which was done today. And then we do need to get a general listing of those, stakeholders or community members that we think would be helpful to have in that third focus group. So that information should be sent directly to me. But that was the last piece, and I will turn that back over to you, Shabri. In the last part, are there any other reports or anything else by the commissioners? Future agenda items, what I did want to let you know is that, for May, I will be scheduling, a discussion. Manny is going to be in attendance, and there are several items, specifically around transportation that will be coming back to the commission and looking for, some additional assistance, and then also a little bit on programming. So Manny will be planning to, attend in May, in addition to obviously, the normal pieces, with the work plan and age friendly as well. Were there other items for future agenda besides those pieces?
We have, Debbie Tom coming?
Yes, and so I have been in touch. I was finally able to get connected, and I will work to see, because we obviously have our regular meeting. It would be dependent upon if that worked, schedule-wise for her, so I will keep the commission posted. But yes, that would be, continue to be, future.
Do I mention that I'm unable to join? Yes, so I may have a family emergency and have to leave to go out of town. So in May, if somebody, Jenny can, run the special, our regular meeting.
Yeah, and that's why we have you as the vice chair.
Yeah, thank you so much. So that's it, then please do keep a track of whatever goes on. All right, thank you, and we'd like to adjourn the meeting if that's okay with everyone.
Thank you.
I'll see you later.
Thank you.
So who should I take the physical,
Oh, yes, we have those up here. Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, land your time.
It's not working.
No, it's work, I mean, it took me here,
Should take you to a form, right?
no, it took me.
This is a kind of exciting time of our program, actually.
Okay, this is all I got from you. There was a link here. Yes. If I click that, it takes me here, and then, so which of these contain the packet?
So it's that packet right here, agenda packet, PDF printable. So any of the huge pockets. So do you have any other devices that you can open it on?
I'll probably try and open it on my laptop.
Okay.
But that's why I said I wanted to see those.
Oh, so we can give you that one right there.
Okay, I'll take that one.
But yes, so it also is online. So if you go online, that's the same link that you should have.
Okay. As long as there is. I'm here. I don't need it. If somebody wants it, I'll bring it back. I'll take that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to see you too. Chris, I was gonna tell you, thank you for the camera.
Absolutely.
Somebody. Chris?
Yeah, maybe I'll take that. One of our.
Mr. Crosby talking with
Ours was because I was, this time I was tired, you know. I heard most of it and.
Well, anything you felt like you didn't get a chance.
Okay. You're good, so. James, thank you for next week. My brother-in-law is great.
Yeah, because we usually.
So with her grandkids, I'm surrounded, she's overwhelmed. So I'm gonna so I'm not doing that.
And I'll let him.
Yeah, that's the reason why. I know. And he's already got used to this, hanging around, you know, you're gonna bring. Yeah. So she's overwhelmed, she says, can you come and help? I said, okay, I'll leave. I get a, chicken that's affordable.
Well, I know, it's like, well, anyway, sure, no problem if I'm here, otherwise we'll boot it to someone else. I wanted to show Jamie this and give it to her. This is another idea I read in the paper. It's a year old, but, Saratoga's doing a
That's
thing.
why, well, that's why it wouldn't open, I can.
A year ago,
Yeah.
and they're partnering with.
Well, so because it's so big, yeah, I think that's the issue. The other thing is
Because
if
the
you,
community colleges, their enrollment.
you wanna find leave on your own.
Yeah.
then putting it on
So they're
classes,
partnering with the
your
city to
commission,
do something which
and
is
then
gonna
going
help
to agenda.
enrollment and help the
That
city
might
with stuff.
Be a better way to go. I don't know, sometimes that's what you're gonna do, right?
Yeah,
Oh, I
that's
think,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm gonna do?
She's coming back.
I'll tell her you left it.
Candace, I think that's okay to. Thank you so much.
This is recording, so.
Oh, no. How do we? Is it that, I think it's on that one right there. Or that's Jamie. I don't.
Oh, yeah.
Shane left that for you.
Okay.
I didn't want to unplug it until it was okay to.